Hello and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me as we get straight into the discussions. This morning we're focusing on our children and mental health. Well, ICNTT has made a plea for all vulnerable youth who feel as though they do not have the support. Well, you do. ICNTT is here to help. This morning I'm joined by Outreach Officer of Childline Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Janice Reed. She's with us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, Miss Reed.
Good morning, everyone.
Well, Ms. Reed, thank you very much for joining me. As I start this conversation, could you tell me, from your point of view, where is Trinidad and Tobago as it pertains to discussion about the unique psychology of, well, I suppose this digital age and digital youth?
So, good question. So we are at a phase where, as an organization, we are taking our services online, which means that we would be able to reach a wider population within Trinidad and Tobago, especially our target population of children up to the age of 25, so that we could provide that mental and psychosocial support to them through our helpline service that is totally free. So as a non-profit organization, all of our services are free. So we continue to extend our free services to support the youths of Trinidad and Tobago in promoting mental and psychosocial assistance.
What would you say are the greatest challenges associated with mental health? For example, the experiences of ICNTT last year, the first year, great restrictions and lockdowns. What were some of the challenges that were faced and the most common that ICNTT would have seen in working with vulnerable youth?
So within the last year, which would have been 2022, 45% of our calls were related to mental health matters. And when we say mental health, we mean self-harming, depression, anxiety, family issues. And we would have seen that consistent trend throughout that time of the COVID-19 and the lockdown. Basically because children were restricted. It had nowhere for them to go but just to be confined at home. So we took that initiative to continue to support them through our web chats, through our My Childline app, where they were able not only to have access to our services, but also to engage with child-friendly material, which would help them to overcome the situations that they are faced with, as well as conforming to the new restrictions of the COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. Now, mentioning COVID-19 and the pandemic, I'm certain that anxiety and depression would have actually been greater when compared before COVID-19 lockdowns. However, social isolation was not much of a choice given the restrictions.
Definitely.
Following the opening of Trinidad and Tobago and the easing of restrictions, the reopening, sorry, is it that social isolation has become a symptom, or is it now just one of the greater problems that youth face when it comes to their mental health?
So some children now, they use it as a coping mechanism, basically because they were just so confined at home, and when they go through their issues, they stick to themselves. Now it will have been developed as a coping mechanism. So children just keep to themselves, which can be very harmful because they are not vocal. They don't voice their opinion, though they don't say if something is bothering them. So parents as well as professionals now, we have to try to get it out of them.
Mm-hmm. Now, where would you say, is there a need for a national survey to try and understand the state of mental health when it comes to young people?
I think generally mental health is taken as only people who are mad, and we do not focus on the different types because, sometimes children might be in school. You have a friend who might be constantly sad, but they laugh it off because they don't take it as serious. I think the starting point is educating our children on mental health the types of mental health, the signs and the symptoms.
But beyond just children, what about adults? How are we to understand the social and psychological issues that children face if adults themselves are not fully aware or do not truly understand the situation?
Yes. So it all comes in where parents as well have to be knowledgeable and educated on these matters, because sometimes you hear parents say, what stress you have? You don't have any stress. You don't have bills to pay. But a child's threshold of dealing with stress is very fewer than the one of an adult. So when we feel stressed out, we know how we feel. But when a child reaches their threshold, they feel the same way. It don't mean that we compare them to not having bills to pay or not having a job. Children's stress level is way different to our adults, which means that it is important that we educate parents so that they can also provide the ample support and help that is needed for their children.
Do you think there's an understanding, or is there a taboo towards the special vulnerabilities of young people, especially here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, within our culture, we definitely look down on others. So we may look down on someone who would be perceived to be different, somebody who might handle situations different. And this is where children are afraid to come out and identify that, I am going through this. I have been feeling sad for a frequent period of time, and I think I may have been depressed. So children are afraid to come out because they are not sure what the response will be like.
Now, let's move forward from this. Beyond just the NGO Childline TT, how would you describe the ability of other authorities in dealing with the scales of child abuse and neglect, mental health? Do you think that enough is being done? Are there adequate supports, adequate measures that are in place that are significant enough to deal with the mental health situation here in Trinidad and Tobago, especially following the COVID-19 pandemic's restrictions?
So other organizations as well as other authorities are doing what they can with what they have in terms of resources. So all organizations that is dedicated to the welfare of children, we are working collaboratively, and we are doing what it takes to get the job done.
Now, do you think that it is important now, and taking a look at it from a different angle, to examine the psychology of today's young people, because it could affect, for example, tomorrow's labor force? Because of the correlations, is there greater need to examine this at a deeper level rather than just this conversation between NGOs and an interview on a television station, which, may I say, is justifiable because a lot more needs to be done?
Yes, so it is important that we take these matters seriously because we are seeing it as evident and early as in primary school kids, which means that they would have a ripple effect as they continue to progress and grow. So it should be dealt with as early as possible. As we call it, early intervention is always the best. So we should look at them as early as possible to provide that support that they need so that we could work with them throughout so that they will have all the necessary resources and equipment that they need when they continue to progress through later life.
But why is Childline TT different? For example, yes, I know we live in a digital age, and young people could be sitting in front of each other and would probably be messaging each other on their cell phones. But so, even that service of being able to do it online or over a telephone helps. But in terms of psychology, it's not the same as talking to a person who's next to you. Sometimes that really helps. How is Childline TT different, and how is this service progressive?
So we not only have all of our services online, however, we also have our helpline, which is operational 24 hours with 365 days of the year. where children and young persons up to the age of 25 can simply call by dialing 800-4321 at any time. We have active listeners that are on the line that are able to take the call throughout that 24 hours. So our helpline do not close. We always tend to tell children that regardless of whatever time it is, you are free to call us. In terms of that one-on-one which you were speaking about, we do offer free counseling as well, where children or even parents will request the counseling, and they would have that support from our psychosocial counselors of that one-on-one counseling over a period of sessions.
And has there been, I suppose, have you seen an increase in the number of young people utilizing such services and even willing to speak?
Yes, definitely. So on an average, a monthly basis, we get over 300 calls.
Oh, that's incredible.
So,
that's about 10 calls a day at least.
So children are reaching out. Children are reaching out. They are seeking safe spaces. And we are here to provide that safe space for them.
And does Childline TT have the support? I know you said that there's always someone there 24/7, 365 days a year. But beyond that, is Childline TT getting the support that is necessary, required to ensure it maintains its infrastructure? But also, are we seeing an increase in volunteerism, or is there a need for more volunteers?
So we do have an increase in volunteers, person reaching out who would like to volunteer. At this time, we do have all the necessary support that we need. However, we extend our services and we invite our corporate sector to see the need of our children and to support us on this mission.
Has the corporate sector ignored this mission?
Pardon?
Would you say that the corporate sector, corporate TNT, have they ignored this mission?
No, they haven't. They haven't. Oftentimes we reach out to corporate and they provide their assistance, at which we greatly appreciate.
And this service is here to stay?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, as we conclude, and thank you very much for your time this morning, just if there's one final message that you'd like to extend to the young people of Transvago, and even share with them once more the numbers, should they need somebody to speak to, whom could they contact?
Definitely. So, in conclusion, my message to the young people today is reach out. Don't ever feel afraid to reach out. Someone is always here to provide that support. Reach out by simply dialing 800-4321. Reach out to us. It is free. Even if you are afraid that someone might make out a voice, you don't want to speak via the telephone, you can use our live web chat. You can download the My Childline app and access us through WhatsApp. So you do not have to call us via the telephone. You can use other mediums to get that support that you need. But the most important thing is for you all to reach out. We are here for you all. We hear and we care. So our service is provided to you all free, and we ask you all to please reach out at any point in time you all need assistance.
Well, just when you think that you're alone, there are services such as Childline TT who are there to lend their support. And Ms. Reed, thank you very much for your time this morning. And thank you for sharing with us all this information and your opinions and thoughts as it relates to our current view of young people and mental health here in Trinidad and Tobago. Wishing you all the very best, and well done to Childline TT for their support and their services.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Do have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, AM Prime now takes a break. When we return, we'll get into another discussion, and that is trying to understand, a greater understanding, the true meaning of Freemasonry. We'll be right back after this.
The MG showroom has an SUV for your personality with multiple features that will have you driving in comfort and style. MG gives you the most miles, and now you can own your brand new MG for as little as $85 a day. I am Trisha Burke from Massey Motors. Contact me to drive away with your MG today.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola.
Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Hey beautiful people, Stacey Sobas here, inviting you to join me and a star-studded cast of artists for North Coast Jazz 2023. May 27th, Salman Hotroy Park Blanche shares. Get your tickets early. Gates open at 1 and you don't want to miss a thing. So make the road trip, because it's not just jazz, it's North Coast Jazz.
Festival grounds, Lancashires. Enjoy a beautiful evening of fantastic music together with your friends. Be mesmerized and captivated by the music of our top local entertainers and musicians, including BP Renegades, Ace Panis and Arranger, Duborn Stewart, Chrison Joseph, Sitarist Extraordinaire, Mungo Patazar, Stacey Sobers, Gospel Queen Nisa, backing band led by Magic Finger guitarist Dean Williams. Also, Brass to the World, featuring two iconic superstars Ronnie McIntosh and Superblue, plus much more. Born here and played here. North Coast Jazz, Saturday, 27th May at Festival Grounds, Lancashires. Showtime, 3:30 p.m. Tickets already on sale at Kenny's Sports Centers. Extra Foods, Crosby St. James, Mart's Liquor Palace, Diego Martin Main Road, WESN, Gallagher Street, Athletes by the Park, and IslandEatTickets.com. For more info, call 331-4285. Get ready for North Coast Jazz.
Welcome back to AM Prime. Freemasonry, the lodge, the craft. These are terms of what probably which you are familiar with. But precisely what are they and what do they mean? Well, I can't answer that question for you. So fortunately, we've been able to find somebody who can. This morning, I'm joined by the District Grand Master of the District Grand Lodge of Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, Mr. Louis Jean-Baptiste. He's with us via Zoom. Good morning, Mr. Baptiste.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and morning also to your viewers.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, sir. I'll start by asking, simply, what is Freemasonry?
Freemasonry really, we like to say, is a system of morality. It is veiled in allegory and symbols. That is how we get our messages over. And inside of that, our basic tenets hinge on brotherly love, relief, and truth.
From a historical context, where was Freemasonry established? Where was the lodge established, and how did it come to Trinidad and Tobago?
Freemasonry goes back, or let's say masonry. Let's start masonry. Goes back to the Middle Ages. It goes back to the original stone operative masons who had guilds and who would have gone from place to place. Out of that, we got speculative masonry, as I said, indicating using symbols and allegories, a lot of it coming out of the building of King Solomon's temple. We have a lot of references to the Bible and to that era in particular. And this jurisdiction, in my jurisdiction, we have been chartered by the Grand Lodge of Scotland, headquarters in Edinburgh, and we came together as a Grand Lodge in roughly around 1730s.
Now, you just said in your jurisdiction, and then you referenced Scotland. Is it that Freemasonry and the Lodge, there are many jurisdictions? In fact, what are the jurisdictions, if that be the case, that exist in Trinidad and Tobago?
All right. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have the District Grand Lodge of Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, Scottish Constitution, of which I am the District Grand Master. We have United Grand Lodge of England, and then there is the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Massachusetts.
The Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. That sounds. Could you just kindly elaborate on that particular one? Because I have heard of the Grand Lodge of the United Kingdom and of Scotland, but the Prince Hall Lodge, that is not a familiar term to me. Can you kindly elaborate on that particular jurisdiction?
Well, it is one of the, if not the oldest, black lodges or black constitutions that was established many years ago. They are headquartered, this particular one is headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, but throughout the United States, there are other Prince Hall Grand Lodges. In our jurisdiction, we have relationships, and we recognize the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Massachusetts.
Is there harmony amongst the three jurisdictions of which you mentioned? Is it that these three lodges, there is some sort of cohesion amongst them?
Well, let me first, minor correction, 3 constitutions.
Thank you.
Because under the constitutions, you have several lodges. And yes, to answer your question directly, yes, there's harmony. We recognize each other. We can attend each other's meetings and partake in each other's activities. Our recruiting may be different, slightly different, but we believe in the same tenets of Freemasonry. That Freemasonry is based.
No.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so as Freemasonry made its way to Trinidad and Tobago, and you mentioned District Grand Lodge of Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, is it that, has there been some form of evolution where the beliefs and practices that exist here in the Lodge in TNT are different to the ones in Scotland, or has tradition remained the same?
No, most of the lodges here in Scottish Freemasonry, we perform the same ritual and the same workings that they do in Scotland. We have one lodge, very old lodge, the first lodge, United Brothers 251. They had their origins in St. Lucia, and because of civil disturbance way back when, they came to Trinidad in 1795, and they then were consecrated under a U.S. jurisdiction before they were chartered by the Grand Lodge of Scotland in 1813. So Lodge United Brothers is our oldest lodge, and but all the lodges practice, but they have a very special initiation. But all the other lodges maybe practice basically the same ritual.
I'm actually going to get into, you're using this term rituals quite often. I'm going to get into that in a moment. But just to get the basic foundation of this conversation, with respect to the members of the lodge, could you say, or could you give an estimate as per the average number of members that the District Grand Lodge you said under the Scottish Constitution, how many members do they have?
All right, to start with, under the Scottish Constitution, we have, of the District Grand Lodge of Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, we have one lodge in Grenada, we have one in Tobago, and we have 11 lodges situated in Trinidad. We have one in San Fernando, we have one in Arima, and the others are in Port of Spain. Membership in each of them would vary. The stronger of the lodges may have maybe 40, 45 active members. The not so strong, you may be looking at about 20 active. And when I say active, the lodges were to some extent adversely affected by COVID. So in the post-COVID period, we have had some of our membership, especially the age, who are concerned about coming back to open lodge, either because, not just straight age-wise, but because of illnesses that they may be carrying, who is a diabetic, or they feel that coming and socializing in a close environment may be detrimental to their health.
A woman allowed to be a part of the lodge? Does Freemasonry, as it stands, include women?
As it stands today, under the Grand Lodge of Scotland, under the three jurisdictions that we have in Trinidad, women are not allowed.
Is there a desire or need to try and change that?
Well, it's something that is being looked at, but in the United States, and we do have the Order of the Eastern Star, which was recently brought back to Trinidad and Tobago. They were here before, went dormant. So far, they may attend our social gatherings. We may interact with them, but they may not, and we cannot in turn attend their formal meetings.
So, as we've gotten, more or less the foundation of this conversation out of the way, I'll ask you, what are the basic principles of Freemasonry?
Well, as I mentioned before, it is founded on brotherly love, relief, and truth. We feel that we can assist in taking a young man, a man of any age, mature age, and assist him, guide him in becoming a better person. And he has the support of the various membership, not just limited to his own personal lodge. The lodge that he joins, initially we call it his mother lodge, but we do encourage our membership to visit the other 12, as a matter of fact, not just the 13 lodges within the Scottish Constitution, but we encourage them to fellowship with members in the other constitutions. And thereby they see, they grow, they socialize, and they would find examples of men who they can emulate or who can guide them in becoming a better person.
Why is Freemasonry and the Lodge, why is it shrouded in so much secrecy?
Well, that goes back in history to the Middle Ages and our operative Masons who they were stone masons, and I said they belonged to guilds, and so they had their own secret ways of identifying themselves as qualified masons as they went from village to village. So that formed the foundation. But Freemasonry, while we may have certain secrets, it is not a secret society. There's a lot of misinformation outside there in terms of what Freemasonry is, what it does. A lot of it can be negative, but that is furthest from the truth.
You're saying it's for this...
For instance, to become a Freemason, one must be a believer in God. Whether you want to call that God Jah, Allah, Jehovah, one must be a believer in a supreme being. You cannot be a believer in a supreme being and then engage in negative activity.
I'm going to get back to that point. That's a very interesting point that you raised. But you just mentioned there's so many rumors. And earlier, you using the term rituals quite a bit. We are aware of some of the rumors. The Lodge and Freemasons are devil worshippers, for example. Those are one of the rumors or misconceptions, I see. Because of the secrecy, as you said, this goes back centuries, has that contributed to the rumor mill? And is there, because of that secrecy, could you say for certain that this is not true? Even though you believe in God, we're not devil worshippers in any way.
Unequivocally, as I said, you come in, we have our ceremonies. If the lodge is Christian, its membership is predominantly Christian, there would be the Bible would be open. If the lodge consists of I made mention of Lodge United Brothers. In that particular lodge, you will have the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Quran. And so that there's nothing ungodly. We don't say God. We prefer to use the term of the great architect of the universe to cover all religions. But one, we are not a religious body, but we do reinforce religious beliefs. Nothing towards devil worship, far from the truth.
So we understand now the relationship between religion and Freemasonry. Now, you've also mentioned that one must believe in a supreme being. You refer to it as a great architect of the universe.
Correct.
That could be, anyone in anyone's mind. That can mean anyone, a supreme being, God. So is it that you said that you're not a religious institution, but does one have to be religious, or is it more so spiritually in line? Because there is a difference.
One must attest to a particular religious belief. And I previously called the mainstream, so that in Freemasonry, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, we all come up one banner, the banner of the great architect. And we don't, maybe I should say, we so far, to the best of my knowledge, it's the more established religious organizations, if I can use that term. But we would not get involved, as I say, in or accept an individual who cannot attest a belief in one of the mainstream religions.
Mm-hmm. You're not a religious organization, and I understand that, and I understand from your explanation, but for the clarification of viewers watching, is the lodge a substitute for church or any form of church?
Definitely not. Our members are still encouraged to go to their places of worship. However, as I have been saying, we would, on the teachings of Masonry, would reinforce those religious beliefs and some of those religious activities. Charity, for instance. We get involved in a fair amount of charity. We would encourage any Freemason, whatever tenets that his particular religion teaches, we would support and encourage them along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Now, does Freemasonry, and by extension the lodge, does it discriminate in the sense of it's me wanting to become a member of the lodge for whatever reason that may be, and it's something we could probably get into in a bit. But does it discriminate of my social position, my financial possessions, of my mental abilities, or my physical being?
We are proud to say throughout the history of Freemasonry, we have had purpose to royalty. In order to join Freemasonry, one must first have two individuals, one to propose your membership, one to second your membership. That application form goes to the particular lodge. There's an interview process. There's a recommendation from a committee out of the interview that goes to the lodge. The lodge then takes a vote on it. Any two negative votes, then the individual will not be accepted and may reapply within another year. But it has nothing to do with class. It has nothing to do with your standing in society. It has to do with you, the individual, and what you are bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. Now, is Freemasonry for everyone?
Probably not, from the point of view of commitment. When you join a particular lodge, you are expected to attend that particular lodge, which has a meeting once a month. In order for you to progress internally and to be better fulfilled, you are encouraged to visit other lodges. So there's a commitment. There's a commitment of going, visiting, development. There's a commitment of supporting some of our charitable works, not necessarily financial. It may be even of your time. Right now, the lodge, the district, has under its consideration a mentorship program. We used to have some years ago a mentorship program in South Port of Spain, where we would have volunteers from the lodge mentor young men. In most cases, the homes of the mentors there was an absence of the mentees, of a male father figure. Currently, we are holding discussions with 6 schools in the Mova area to see if our membership could identify young men and provide some form of leadership and guidance to them. So membership in Masonry can be wide. It can be very much time consuming.
You've answered my question as to whether or not Freemasonry is for everyone. But now that there is an understanding, what makes a good Freemason?
What makes a good Freemason? A good Freemason is one who has an open mind to start with, one who is willing to learn, one cannot have a fixed opinion of either the yourself or your surroundings, your life. One must be open. One must be open to discussion. One must be open that if a brother comes to you and he points out, he could do 2 things. He can say, congratulations on this. You have done a good job. On the other hand, when we join Masonry, for instance, when you asked about if it is for everybody, we join Masonry and we consider ourselves on the level, at the same level, rich, poor, indifferent, so that if a brother comes to you and he says, listen, I have noticed this has been taking place, or I have noticed that you have responded in a particular way, one must be open to that. One must be open, I wouldn't say criticism, but one must be open to advice.
Mm-hmm. Now, what should one ask themselves before considering joining the lodge or wanting to become a member? What are some of the things that you should ask yourself before applying?
Well, we have had, let me answer this way, we have had individuals come to us who there may be a void in their life. We are not a service club like the Lions and Kiwanis, and some people are looking for a little bit more than that. In our case, in particular, the type of brotherhood and fellowship that exists, we feel that we can offer men a way to view the world differently in a more positive way. It's with all that is taking place in society, it is becoming harder these days, as you see what is taking place with our youth. And again, that is why we have asked for volunteers from our membership to go in. We have engaged society. We have some professionals, clinical psychologists who are assisting us in trying to identify good mentors, because they will have to commit to a 3-year, but it will also help us identify who are the young people that we can reach. But for some, it might be too late. For some, we have to acknowledge that. So, initially we may be looking at the 9-year-old to the 13, 14-year-old. Beyond that, it would be increasingly, you look at the statistics outside there, and the crime rate, beyond that, it becomes increasingly difficult to provide that type of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
they would have been getting leadership from a different quarter in a not so positive way.
You've mentioned earlier about this brotherly love and about helping young men better themselves or see the world from a more positive view. Now, becoming a member or becoming a Freemason, how does that help to answer the question, who am I?
Let me first correct myself. Young men, yes, but we take in men at all ages. Mm-hmm. All right? We don't discriminate in terms of age. We feel that based on our teachings, you initially might have been asking yourself, who am I? What more is there to do? So we hope to provide that type of guidance. As I said, the leadership, the discussions that take place, the lessons, most of our lessons come out, or you heard me speak of our ritual, and I said it is based on the building of King Solomon's temple. For instance, when I am given work to learn to perform at one of our ceremonies, one of the first things that I would do is go to the Bible and get the reference in terms of where the work is coming from, and to see the hidden meaning, so that whenever I am presenting that piece of work, I am presenting it from a position of knowledge and understanding, and not just regurgitating. They say learn this, so you learn it and you come and reproduce it. But I am able to speak to it and hopefully draw or point out life lessons from it.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Louis Jean-Baptiste, District Grand Master of the District Grand Lodge of Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada. Sir, thank you very much for your time this morning and for clarifying certain things. I know we could not have gotten too much into the rituals and the rites and the ceremonies too much, but for the clarification that you did give and for all the information and knowledge that you did share with us this morning, thank you very much, sir.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate being able to appear here and hopefully to clarify and to demystify a lot of the misconceptions that there is about Freemason. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Do have a good day.
You too, and to your viewers.
That was Mr. Louis Jean-Baptiste, the District Grand Master of the District Grand Lodge of Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, Scottish Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, we now take a break here on AM Prime for WSN's News on the Hour. Stay tuned to the program.
This is your WESN News on the Hour. My name is Sean Michael Small. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Bank employee charged with larceny granted bail. Fishermen and Friends of the Sea speaks on Prime Minister's Howard University honor. Regionally, the Caribbean Development Bank looks at deepening involvement in Jamaica. And internationally, Africa's largest oil factory launched in Nigeria. Now for the details. A 21-year-old bank employee charged with 2 counts of larceny was granted bail in the sum of $100,000. The charges were laid after an extensive investigation was conducted into unauthorized transactions on the accounts of 2 customers at a major commercial bank. Adrian Thomas of Princestown was arrested on Thursday. According to police reports, a customer reported to the bank that he observed several unauthorized online transactions on his savings account that he never set up, activated, or authorized anyone to make on his behalf. Checks were made and 49 of these transactions, totaling $63,765, were allegedly discovered on the customer's account during the period June the 12th, 2022 and May the 15th, 2023. Further checks were made and 6 similar online transactions totaling $2,090 were also allegedly discovered on another customer's account during the period January the 8th, 2023 and January the 16th, 2023. Fishermen and Friends of the Sea Gary Aboud says there remains some discontentment when it relates to the Prime Minister being honored by Howard University. He spoke via WESN's AM Prime on the issue today, where he said that there are several other persons that are very deserving of awards but continue to not be recognized.
I'm concerned about the awkwardness of the president awarding her son and her husband, Silk, 3 months after she's, appointed. These are unusual circumstances, and I think it's only fair that the people who have contributed to our society, as simple and humble as they are, should also be recognized. I mean, we have had citizens who have risked their lives in flood waters last year or year before, swimming with alligators to rescue people who were marooned in water. But we never recognized them.
Regionally, the Caribbean Development Bank has signaled its intention for deeper involvement in Jamaica's sustainable development programs, as a senior executive team today completed a week of high-level exchanges with government ministers and other officials. The mission commenced with a meeting with Prime Minister Andrew Holness on May 16th, where the dialogue centered on strengthening the partnership between the country and the bank to accelerate Jamaica's economic growth agenda. Pivotal areas identified for deeper intervention included agriculture, food sovereignty, water security, citizen security, and capacity building for national institutions. Internationally, Africa's biggest oil refinery has been opened in Nigeria, where it is hoped it will alleviate chronic fuel shortages. Nigeria is a major oil producer, but most of this is sent abroad, while it has to import the refined fuel used in vehicles and elsewhere. As a result, the country often faces chronic fuel shortages. This is the problem that the $19 billion refinery owned by Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, is intended to tackle. Well, that's the news to the hour on WESN. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for watching.
The countdown has started for the premier jazz show of this season. Get your tickets for North Coast Jazz. Festival grounds, La Chiges. Enjoy a beautiful evening of fantastic music together with your friends. Be mesmerized and captivated by the music of our top local entertainers and musicians, including BP Renegades, Ace Panis and Arranger, Duvon Stewart, Chrison Joseph, Sitarist Extraordinaire, Mungo Patterson, Stacy Sobers, Gospel Queen Nisa, backing band led by Magic Finger guitarist Dean Williams. Also, Brass to the World, featuring two iconic superstars Ronnie McIntosh and Superblue, plus much more. Born here and played here. North Coast Jazz, Saturday, 27th May at Festival Grounds, La Chiches. Showtime, 3:30 p.m. Tickets already on sale at Kenny's Sports Centers, Extra Foods, Crosby St. James, Mott's Liquor Palace, Dico Martin Main Road, WESN, Gallagher Street, Athletes by the Park, and IslandEatTickets.com. For more info, call 331-4285. Get ready for North Coast Jazz.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. Thank you for staying with us this morning. And now welcome to the conversation the Divisional Manager of Corporate Services at the Housing Development Corporation, Mr. Jeremy Campbell. Good morning, Mr. Campbell.
Good morning, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me. Mr. Campbell, you're here to speak about a new education campaign that's been launched by the HDC with regards to illegal occupancy. Now, the slogan is not yours. Let's start there behind the choice of the slogan and precisely the effect that you hope it has as part of this education campaign.
Right, so this is one of the other campaigns that we would have launched to address a situation that we would have seen a spike in over the last couple of quarters. We are seeing a rise in persons who are, one, moving into our properties illegally, but there are also persons who are subletting units illegally to persons. So what we are trying to drive from in this campaign is that, one, you need to come to the HGC, you need to follow certain guidelines, protocols based on the cabinet-approved policy of being allocated a home. If you have not done so, that house that you're occupying or trying to occupy is not yours. So this is just another campaign in which we are trying to educate the public so that they understand the do's and don'ts of home ownership.
You said you've seen a spike in illegal occupancy, so it's a problem that's plagued the HGC. When you say a spike, are you referring to a particular time frame, for example, following the COVID-19 pandemic, during the COVID-19 pandemic, or is it, more so now than ever?
Well, so it has been a perennial problem that we would have experienced. During COVID, obviously, persons would have been in dire situations, so they felt that the need of getting a home was to do it illegally by moving in illegally. So we would have seen a trend, an upward trend that is a bit alarming. It would have occurred before COVID, but we are seeing a trend that is a bit concerning moving forward. And that's why we felt the need to have this campaign to advise persons of the do's and don'ts and how to go about getting an HGC property.
And how is this campaign going to be any different in terms of communicating with all stakeholders and perhaps all illegal occupants?
So normally what we do, we have a verification survey that the agency does in the back end, because this is something that happens periodically. We always go to our sites to do verifications to determine who the occupants are. We have campaigns that we normally run in the background, but we felt the need to have a very foregoing campaign this time around, where this will basically supplement what customers will be seeing on site. They will be seeing our social and our security officers coming on site to verify that John Doe is the occupant of the property, which is something that we always do. But we wanted to ensure that persons know that we are coming, we are looking at the situation, and it's also illegal to occupy an HGC property. There's a trespassing act that clearly says if you break into a unit that is not yours, an HGC property or not, you are either liable to a $100,000 fine or 15 years imprisonment. So it's something that we want to ensure that the public understands. You can't just move into an HGC property. You can't move into any property that is not yours. But this is something that we want to do just to educate the public so that they know that we are coming, that we are looking, and it's a problem that we want to address.
How does illegal occupancy affect the corporation stakeholders?
So there's various things that occur, which is a good question. So when someone occupies a unit illegally, there's two scenarios. One, a unit that is now constructed, newly built, someone moves in illegally. What that does, one, it affects the person who has been legally allocated that property. They are now out of a home. They can't move in because obviously we have to now remove that person that is illegally in the property. AGC now has to spend taxpayers' money to remediate those units, right, which is an additional cost. In addition to this, if it's an apartment or a townhouse complex, you find that the illegal persons may have put illegal connections for electricity, what that does, it compromises not only that particular unit, but the neighbors as well. The entire building now needs to be re-inspected. That entire building could be engulfed in flames because the connection was done illegally. So there are a lot of challenges that occur once somebody moves in illegally to a property. It affects not just the person who has been waiting for a home, but the persons who are actually living in the community could be affected.
Now, if this verification process of which you highlighted previously is constantly ongoing, how is it that this spike in illegal occupancy has occurred or been allowed to occur?
So it's not a situation that was allowed to occur. Although we are very prevalent on our sites, agency can't be everywhere at once. So construction is something that is it's a cyclical phenomenon. So once a unit is being built, obviously we have contractors on site, we have security on site, but over that person has been not the person that was registered, but it's an illegal occupant. And that means that we now have to trigger our machinery to get that person out of the unit. But because construction is cyclical and we can't be everywhere at once, persons can move into a property illegally at night, and then we have to now remove that person. So it's a situation where we want to educate the public to cease and desist from this behavior, because there's a $100,000 fine and there's a 15-year imprisonment that comes with that type of action. In fact,
have any of these fines actually been issued with regards to illegal occupancy?
So the agency has been working with the TTPS. It is something that we are working very closely with them on. I can't speak to the fact if they have executed any particular arrests as yet, but it's something that has been ongoing for quite a number of years. So I'm not sure exactly as to the statistics, but it is something that we would have arrested persons for over the course of the years.
Has the culture of, I suppose, how society is now, has the culture that HEC has gifted me this house, that I'm owed this house, has that also been part of the problem as it relates to illegal occupancy?
Yeah, there's a cultural change that needs to occur. What we have done, we basically would have had 3 campaigns over the last couple of months. We would have had the relaunch of HAFS, which is the database that you would have applied for when you want to get an agency house. That gives you a reference number and that kind of thing. And then in January, we had the More Ways to Pay campaign, where we show persons, once you get a house, you need to now pay for the house. And now we are basically doing this illegal campaign to show that you can't just move in a property illegally. So what we have been doing is using educational campaigns to allow us to educate the public, to change the culture that an agency house is free, that when you get it, you don't have to pay for it. So we know that this is a process, not an event. It will take time, but we are putting systems in place to ensure that these situations are remediated.
But who is responsible for creating this culture in the first place? Is it just the mindset of those who are applying to HCC? Or rather, is that HCC has not been fully committed to even their own principles?
I won't say that it's a blame game, really. I would say that it's a situation where the government is in the business of providing low and affordable, safe housing to the public, and that's what we are trying to do. For whatever reason, persons believe that low and affordable housing are free, but this is something that we are actually trying to curb. So we believe with these campaigns moving forward, we would be able to address that cultural change.
Would you say that some were actually allowed to ignore their obligations towards the HCC?
I wouldn't say they were allowed. Persons who are, for example, in arrears are written. Persons who fail to comply and complete their mortgages are written by also TTMF, the bank, and those kind of things. What we are doing now is trying to make sure that we address the situation via educational campaigns so everybody knows what the do's and don'ts are, right? So that when other measures are put in place, the public will know, okay, agency will have communicated effectively and we will have ensured that these steps are taken to assist the customers. But we are doing everything in the background and the foreground to assist customers in changing this culture.
The corporation is willing to take drastic action to ensure that all these issues are resolved, because if I'm not mistaken, around 55% of HEC homeowners are actually in arrears to the corporation. Is it that the corporation is actually willing to take drastic action?
So I can't speak to the 55%. I don't have that figure in front of me. However, the action that we are taking obviously is going to be, I won't say drastic, but it's very proactive approaches. We are moving in a direction where we want persons to adhere to their financial obligations. We want them to pay for their property. We want them to finalize their mortgages in a time frame that is realistic and within the normal financial guidelines. So we are being more proactive in addressing these issues. And we believe that with these measures put in place, these strategies would work.
That 55%, by the way, coming from Chairman Noel Garcia at the Oasis Gardening's opening. But I understand everything that you said thus far. This campaign, I agree with. It's just how we've got about establishing this campaign. But in some instances, for example, there are families who have suggested that they have been in contact with HCC to try and become legal occupiers, but there's been no communication back. Is that also an issue, the communication between HCC and occupants? And by extension, that goes back to the question, how is this campaign going to lead to different effective communication?
Right, so we would have, so there's two things happening at the same time. Persons who are illegally occupying a unit, we advise them to come to the corporation, advise them to come and tell us exactly what the situation is. What we have found is that persons are fearful that if they come and tell us that something will happen or we will throw them out or something will happen to them. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. We are doing this campaign so that customers feel comfortable and welcome to come to the HCC. If you are in a unit where you would have been subletting from a friend, family, someone, that property is not yours. We are advising that you come to us, you advise us so that we can put the necessary legal steps in place to retrieve the unit and see how we can assist you if possible. Persons who are illegally moving to the properties, they as well, this campaign is a way to ensure that they understand that there's ramifications. You are moving in illegally into a property and you're putting yourself at risk because once the TTPS comes there and they see that this person is not a agency tenant, you are now liable to a $100,000 fine and 15 years imprisonment, similar to the persons who are subletting the unit. So it's not a situation of communication. I think that the customers, they need to come to us, and that's what this campaign is about. Come to us so we can have a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. Once you come to us, we can then see how best we can assist you. Now, sometimes the agency is not the only avenue that you can go to address your situation. A home may not be the solution. There may be other social campaigns or social initiatives from other ministries that may be able to better align to what the customer needs. But by them coming to us, it allows us to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Campbell, by no way am I advocating for any illegal occupancy, and I'm not in any way. In fact, I'm against anything illegal. I think we all need to follow the laws. But one of the things that obviously ticks in my mind, I'm looking at a release here on April 11th, 2023, from the HCC, and it says the HCC recognizes that some of these illegal occupants may have fallen on hard times and resorted to illegally occupying the premises. One of the families referenced that they've actually applied for government housing for over 14 years. Given this understanding that the HCC says, okay, we understand that you've fallen on hard times, we don't want to be completely heartless, but 14 years waiting for housing, how do we go about trying to resolve that issue?
Well, I mean, we need to be pragmatic as well, and we need to be realistic. Applying for an agency house is not a guarantee that you'll get through. If you apply for a loan in the bank, it's not a guarantee that you'll get through. If you apply for university, it's not a guarantee you'll get through. There are certain parameters that dictate being approved for allocation. One, you need to qualify for the areas that you would have applied for, and two, the areas that you applied for need to be ready. So when a person may have applied 14 years ago, the income may have been, let's say, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, they may have wanted an apartment in Arima. Currently, we don't have any apartments in that particular area, so obviously the time frame of their waiting will all depend on what they would qualify for and the areas that they would want. So it's a very ticklish, and we understand that dynamic, but persons need to understand that once you apply for the agency, it's not an automatic guarantee that one you'll get through, and it all depends on what you qualify for and where you apply. There's a local, like a culture of Trinidad and Tobago where everyone wants a single family home. The data would show this. But it's not possible for agency or any housing development corporation worldwide to build those types of units all over the place because it takes up more land space, it's more feasible to build apartments and townhouses. But in some instances, families may not want an apartment or a townhouse. They may want a single family so they can put up a wall, they can extend, but sometimes that is not feasible. So the waiting period really depends on what you apply for, where you apply for it, and how and what you would qualify for. Similar to if you apply to the bank or for university or for a car loan, anything.
Now, what of the other issues, and by the way, I'm glad that you're clarifying certain things. Minister Camille Robertson originally said corporation had a mandate not to provide just housing, but safe housing.
Exactly.
Now, excellent, well done. But one of the things is, in terms of illegal occupancy, there was one HCC complex that was condemned since 2020. Since 2010, I apologize. But it's remained there, it's left there. Has the HCC not acting upon these things, such as the housing complex being condemned, and not acting upon these things, administration after administration, also allowed for illegal occupancy? I know you said earlier that I can't agree with you saying that it's been allowed, but certain actions suggest that how the HDC has not necessarily been proactive.
So that particular building was condemned years ago. Actually, it was boarded up. We had bricks to block certain entrances and exits. What we would have found is that persons would have still moved into these properties and have their families there. The reason why the agency intervened the last couple of weeks, based on the report that you have said, is that these persons who would have gone into this property has put themselves and their families at risk. This was an HSE concern because that building was condemned due to flooding issues a while ago, right? So we are being proactive to address those issues, but persons are still moving into properties that we have publicly condemned. So there's a situation where this campaign is one where we need to advise persons, if you're in a situation, come to us and have a conversation. Don't move into a building that we have publicly condemned. You're putting yourself at risk. Because it's known, as you said from the report years ago, that building was condemned and persons have still moved in. Persons have actually moved in, put in brand new doors and tried to have illegal connections there, which would have compromised themselves and the environment as well.
Mind you, Mr. Campbell, in the year 2023, that's 13 years later, people are occupying it since then. So, and it's only now becoming an issue. So this particular campaign, has it already been launched, this ongoing education awareness campaign?
It has been launched. It was launched last month. We would have had numerous interviews like this. Thank you for having us again, to advise persons as to what you should do and what you shouldn't do. It's an ongoing campaign. Like I said, we have a very robust social and security team that will be going out there to do verification surveys. And from those verification surveys, that's how we get the data as to how what strategies we need to put in place to address these issues. So we just want the public to work with us. And the good thing about it is that a lot of the information that we get on illegal occupancy and persons who are subletting units comes from the public. So we are thankful the public is sharing information with us, and we are thankful the public feels the need and sees how dangerous it is for someone to be occupying a unit illegally. So we want that continued support, and this campaign is a way to address that.
Now, it's been a month, so we can't necessarily rate the results as yet, but we can speak about the response. Has the response by those who have participated and by those whom the HDC have targeted, has the response been warmly accepted with a good reception, that is?
It has. Like I said, we have the hotline 3394HDC, or you could email us at securityissues@hdc.gov.tt. And we have been getting information through those channels and through the other channels that we normally historically would have gotten updates and information from as well. The social and security team are currently going to these various developments to gather information. So I would say the campaign has been a success, but obviously it's too early to see what the figures are. But we have been getting a lot of information from the public, and we're very thankful for that.
Certainly. And this project is also part of the HDC returning to its original moorings, I would say, perhaps affordable housing, but
yes,
you have your part as well. It's affordable housing, not free housing.
Exactly. Well said. Well said.
Certainly. Well, Mr. Jeremy Campbell, thank you very much for joining me this morning. You thanked me for the interview, but I must say it's always a pleasure when you make yourself available and when members, in authority make themselves available for education and for awareness and for a greater understanding. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I wish you all the best in your campaign. Hopefully we can, probably analyze it further in the months to come.
I look forward to that. We look forward to meeting again and having more discussion in the future.
Certainly, sir. Well, thank you very much. All the best to you.
Thank you. All right, you too. Thank you. Take care.
And that was Mr. Jeremy Campbell, Divisional Manager of Corporate Services at the Housing Development Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a quick break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll conclude this morning's edition of the program. Stay tuned.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on WhatsApp Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival begins on Friday, May 26th with Movie Night. Movie Night, 7 p.m. Festival Grounds, Blashy Shares. This year features the local hit movie, Hero, directed by Francis Solomon. Come see the story of local justice, Ulrich Cross. Join us at North Coast Jazz Family Night. May 26th, 7 p.m. Bring your cooler, bring your blanket, bring your family. North Coast Jazz. Born here, played here. North Coast Jazz is sponsored by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Visit Trinidad, and the National Lotteries Control Board.
Well, thank you for joining me once more here on AM Prime this morning. It's always a pleasure to start your day with you and for me to have you as company from 6 a.m. on a morning. I hope you enjoyed this morning's program. I hope it brought us some form of information, knowledge and education. So all of us, it certainly did for me. And ladies and gentlemen, I can only wish you a good day ahead. I hope it's a great one, a productive one. May it be one in which you're always the bigger individual. Always be mature, respectful, kind, caring, understanding. Empathy goes a long way, ladies and gentlemen. But as I said, always be rational from your point of view. But for now, I wish you all the very best. And tomorrow morning from 6 a.m., you can join me, Keaton Shaw, for some more AM Prime. But until then, bye-bye.